Hello everyone. Today our guest is Quincy Mahangi, also known as the brand therapist. Quincy's background includes a journey through communication and multimedia design, leading to his work with companies like Guestwise, the Medic Therapeut, BQ Branding, and Habitat. He focuses on the importance of brand identity and storytelling in order to help brands connect with their audiences. Welcome to Lexa Woodley Interviews. Quincy,
Hey,
good to have you here.
thanks for inviting me.
Let's start with who you are. According to ChatGPT,
According to AI.
do you know?
No, I actually tried it once, but it gave me no results. So I thought I must not be famous enough to be ChatGPT-able.
Now you are. Now you
Okay.
are. Quite some lines. Let me just pick out some things that ChatGPT says. Seasoned brand strategist with over 13 years of experience, and Guestwise, but there's something missing according to Lexter, me. What I would say, I miss the brand strategist or the brand therapist. Actually,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. That's why I did it. That's why I named it. But I think it's a phrase I coined myself because it's a way of how I look at branding, how I look at brand strategy, or helping people develop their brand. And that's why I went from brand strategist, because strategy is all in models. It's very clinical. I like the human part of branding. So I thought, how am I doing branding differently than other people are doing it? And it came to me like, you actually talk to the people behind the brand. So who else talks to people when they're stuck and when they're trying to grow and trying to develop? A therapist. So I'm a brand therapist, and I work on the brand side of it, but also on the people side of that brand. So that's why it's brand therapist.
What sparked your interest to become a brand therapist?
I like brands, or actually I should say from a young age, I know that I liked advertising, I liked design, I liked drawing, colors. For instance, I hated that men have so little color when choosing clothing. It's all dull colors or dark colors. I want color. I want something to speak to me. And from a young age, I had that. Growing up in Suriname, if you look at the commercials they had, they were okay for Suriname, but I also thought, okay, I'm gonna make them better. I'm gonna make them great. I'm gonna make like Suriname commercials greater than what I've seen, and that started the whole thing. Taking that into account, plus my dad, who was, or still is, he just turned 73. He's a great storyteller, and every weekend people would come over, barbecue. He would have a cigarette in his mouth hanging from his bottom lip and a glass of whiskey in the other hand. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to have people listen to me and be as entrenched in my story as he does it. Growing up later, I knew some things he would just make up, and his confidence just made people believe him. But like 90% of what he said was true. Other were just embellished. But that's what started it all. That's what made me want to become somebody who did that. And branding was a nice way of doing that.
When did you realize, okay, branding, that is for me the way to do this?
There wasn't a specific moment. It was just an evolution of, because I started with what I said, advertising, marketing more, not knowing what marketing precisely meant. It was like communicating, advertising, making great video clips or something like that, or making great commercials where people would laugh or people would cry, or that would move people. That's what it was for me. And I also like movies, I like stories, I like fantasy movies. Ask anybody they'll tell you, anybody that knows me well. And I like plot twists, I like character building, I like culture. So for me, that's all what branding is, what a brand can be. And I wanted to add that part of it, or how I looked at brands, to branding, to brands, to customers, to Suriname, Netherlands now, but that's what I want to do.
Well, how did that translate then in choosing the types of education?
That's actually a funny story, because it's by pure chance of luck that I came to study in the Netherlands. I actually didn't want to come to the Netherlands to study, but I think I was 18 at the time, and I didn't make it by, I think, a tenth of a point. I just crashed and burned, and yeah, my own fault, because when we were saying that we were studying, we were eating Kentucky Fried Chicken or something like that, and studying a little bit, and telling ourselves we studied, but sorry, mom, dad. But after that, we went for it, and the group of friends we had at the time, and still have actually, we all wanted to go to the Netherlands. We were talking about, okay, it's going to be great. It's going to be a student life. We're going to grow our own marijuana plant and going to smoke weed. All of that when you're young. And we actually came together. So that sparked my interest again to say, okay, I want to study abroad. And adding to that, if I want to do what I'm doing now in Suriname, yeah, you can't really earn a living, or you can earn a living, but you can't develop in the way I wanted to develop myself. Mind you, a year before, I didn't want to develop myself in that way. So I thought, okay, I have two options. I can either go to America, where I have to pay tuition for like 40 to 60,000 euros a year, knowing that I wouldn't be able to pay it. My parents would try to pay it, but would put themselves in a lot of debt to do that. And the other option was the Netherlands. So we have a colonial connection. Family lives here. I've been here on vacation. My friends are going here. That was peer pressure. So I thought, hey, let's try. Let's do it. And that's how I came to the Netherlands to study, at the time, graphic media technology. And
what's that in English?
Yeah, it was Grafisch Lyceum at the time in Rotterdam. But it was graphic design at one time, one part, and the other part was programming. So, but I actually liked it, but I didn't like it enough to say, okay, I want to do this for the rest of my life. So I stopped there, and we were actually doing the same thing, me and a friend. And we stopped doing it and went to apply at the Willem de Koning Academy. And that's how it started, because I came in touch with another side of branding, another side of the business side, the commercial side, more design-minded, in combination with Hogeschool Rotterdam. So I got the best of both worlds. And that's how it started. And I became interested in product development, marketing, design, because also talking with other students that were artists or had an artist mindset. That's what developed me, or helped me develop further. And at a certain point, I think I was in the second year, and the year after that, they were going to introduce a new course. It's called Experience Branding. So it added psychology to design to product development. But if I were to go from my second year to my third year, I wouldn't be able to follow that course or that line of development. So I did a year again to be able to do that.
Wow.
That's why, and Experience Branding, we were actually, the class of that year could experiment a lot, psychology, and we had to read a lot. It was like actually going to a university, and I never read that much stuff in all of those years at Hogeschool. It was a lot. But you could experiment, you could tell stories, you could say, okay, this is what it does to me, this is what it instills in me, this is why I like it, this is why I don't like it. So it helped me develop a lot.
I know that you also did internship twice, if I'm not mistaken. Tell me more about those experiences.
One was like to learn how it goes into in the sector, in your business. and the other was where you have to do your end thesis. So the first one was, normally it's one where you sit next to a designer or next to a marketeer and just listen and go get coffee or something like that. And I was sitting across from a creative director. He had just moved from Amsterdam to Rotterdam, and he was talking about, it was the guy who did campaigns for Rolo, for Bacardi, for Bavaria, T-Mobile. So I thought, okay, pretty daunting. I thought, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to add here? At a certain point, he said, what do you want? What do you want to earn? And I was a Surinamese student. I didn't get studiefinanciering, how it's called. So I didn't get money from the government. So I said, okay, I want to earn this amount. So I knew what I needed for my rent, for my travel, and to get groceries. He said, okay, let's do that. I was like, this is weird. And he said, okay, what else? Yeah, I want to really learn how it is to build a brand or build a campaign. Okay, and I'm going to put you between creative and strategic. Okay, this is, if every intake is going like this, as easy as this, let's go, sign me up. And he said, I think you also need to do something else, and that's, we are going to take in 1 or 2 more interns, and you need to sit at those conversations. And you are going to decide if they get the internship or not.
Wow, that
was like, okay,
quite a responsibility.
Yeah. So I had to do, that's how I actually learned what internal branding was. What do we want to do? Who do you want to get into the organization? What is the communication? What is the design that's going at the outside, towards the outside world? That was my thing. But giving a kid that responsibility and that much freedom in an organization that's not gelling yet, it's great. But on the other side, it's also, okay, who's my mentor? Who's teaching me? So I did get a way other internship in that part of my education than you normally get. And I learned from it, because at one point I asked him, okay, what am I doing right? What can I do better? He said, okay, what you're doing right is getting to the core of what a story is, or the core of what a communication is, or the problem, or benefits, or the promise. But you're getting there too slow. I said, okay, what do I need to do to change that? He said, go the next internship, go work for a agency in Amsterdam, because there the tempo is much higher than in Rotterdam. I said, okay. So going to next year, I went for an internship in Amsterdam, was Lost Boys. And Lost Boys was actually in transition, because they were acquiring other agencies. And at the same time, they were losing money. So they were going through business development and business growth, and adding to their portfolio, but also adding competencies to their what they can do, what they can offer clients. And they had big clients. They had like the Seat, they had Citroën, so I had really big clients. And I thought, okay, how am I going to get in here? And there was I think a PDF on their website. So I did my research, and it was about experience branding, something that I stopped or did an extra year to get into. So I talked about it. I didn't even talk about what the projects I did, how I did, only about how I thought about experience branding. And based on that, because I think I was sitting with a creative director at the time, a woman. So I learned from her a lot. And she said, no, the way you're talking, the way you're analyzing how a brand works or how experience works, I think you can intern here. So did that and started at the creative side. But my end thesis was a strategic question I wanted to answer, actually. It was about, how do you sell cars to women? And nobody at the time was really thinking about how do you mean, how do you sell cars to women?
And which time was this?
It was 2006, 2005, 2006, I think. And it was in the days when Dove was coming out with a beautiful brand, by the way, real beauty, natural beauty, not the aesthetics that you get from a model, but your real body. How do you look? That's natural, and they actually got a lot of awards for that. But going back, so my thing went from creative to strategic. So I started with the creative director. I ended up halfway through my thesis, or through my internship, writing my thesis with a strategic director. So I learned how the creative world works, how it works in tandem with the strategic team, and how differently they think. But I like that part about me, because I have the same thing. I love design. I love creating things. I think visually. I'm a visual thinker, but I also like to think, okay, but what does this mean for the future? What does it mean for in 2 years if I do this? So it was really nice. And on top of that, we were also sitting, I was, as an intern, I was sitting, because I was with the creative director and the strategic director, I was sitting with the CEO in a room with every head of every department, talking about the future of the company. So I was, and actually I thought I just could sit and listen and learn. At a certain point, they started asking me what I thought. And I was taken back by that, because I thought, why are you asking me? But I started talking about what I think, how I think, and a few things that maybe they were already thinking about it, that I said, they did later. And I like to think that it was me who did it, but cool. So that's actually my 2 internships. And I think they aren't the internship that you normally get.
Well, from what I hear, they are quite impressive. That is a pretty good development with those internships. So. I'm curious about your thesis.
Yeah.
What is your conclusion in how to sell cars to women? That is what you said.
Yeah.
Right. Conclusions.
Yeah. It's actually how to sell car brands to women.
Car brands, yeah.
Because it was more about the branding part about it also. So. You might notice women communicate in another way than men.
Nah.
Yeah?
Nah.
So car brands are more geared towards men. So the communication is also geared towards men.
Do you have examples?
Yeah, take the Dodge Ram for instance. It's a robust car. It's bullish. It's macho. Even in the tone of voice, it's macho. The way it looks, it's macho. The way it sounds, it's macho. But you can even make a Dodge Ram appealing to a woman. Talk about the practicality of the car, not about the emotions of the car. That's more a man thing. If we're talking about now, there is a little bit of shift going on, but then it was about the practicality, because that's how women think. That's how women operate. And for no moment am I going to say that I totally understand women, but around that subject, that's how you sell to women. For in a simple thing, when a couple comes into a dealer, into a dealership, don't only talk to the man, talk to the man and the woman. Because what's going to happen when they go home, you've had a talk, you've said everything you wanted to say. When they go home, they're gonna talk. And she's gonna say, yeah, but this is not gonna happen. This is not, no. So
you need to have the woman on board.
Yeah, you need to know what she wants, and what are the benefits of the car for that side of the partnership, because the man is also wants something. I mean, he's gonna be, it's still a man. But take both into account and don't dismiss her, because if you dismiss her, doesn't matter how good of a car you have, you won't win. You'll never win.
You've had these experiences at these companies, and then you became an entrepreneur. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just be safe at these companies and be an employee there? Well, how did that come about?
Well, there are different reasons actually. One is I'm stubborn. That's one reason. The other is I had a certain way of thinking about communication, marketing, branding, and I thought, okay, wait, I first have to learn a way of working and thinking that's not my own. I have to make it my own. And when I decide that I want to create my own agency or go for on my own, I'm going to have to learn what I really think is good and how I want to work. So I have to unlearn something and then rediscover me and learn that again. That's how it worked at that time in my head. So I thought, no, I'll learn it while failing, getting up, failing, getting up. And I'll learn that way, but I'll learn how I want to look at it, and what mistakes I'm going to make. So that's why I did it. And they actually told me that, and at my last internship, they say, but why? Aren't you afraid? But you don't have the network, you don't have the... I said, I'll get the network, I'll get to know people.
But weren't you a bit afraid though?
Yeah, a little bit. I wasn't going to show it, but there's one person who did know that how it was, and it was my wife. And she gave me not only the confidence to be able to do it, but the opportunity the financial opportunity to not to say, okay, from the beginning, I need to earn money. And for it would be my luck that I did earn money from the beginning. Not a whole lot, but I did earn something, so it wasn't just burning money. But I think if she wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have done it. Not in this way. Because we also, at that time, I think we were pregnant at that time from our first child.
So the time that you were,
Yeah.
becoming an entrepreneur, there was a baby on the way.
Yeah.
And then was it?
It was the baby on the way, or the baby was already there.
Uh-huh.
I think my first internship was the baby on somewhere there between.
Okay.
Somewhere in between.
So it made you consider not doing it, or
yeah, or consider just getting a job.
Yeah.
But that's not the way we're built. We're built like, okay, what do you need? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do as a family? So that's the way it went.
How long did it take for you to be like, I'm good? It
was like, I'm good. No, I'm not. I'm good. No, I'm not. I'm good. No, I'm not. It was like that.
Yeah. So how did that go then? Because what was the name of the first company that you had?
BQ Branding.
BQ Branding.
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was actually with a friend of mine. He was named Bjorn.
That's the B.
B.
Uh-huh. And the Q. Quincy.
So the way we think about branding, and we talked about it a lot over wine or over chess, over whatever, how we thought about branding or creating brands. And we brainstormed up a whole bunch of names, but at the end we just thought, yeah, but it's just us, the way we think about branding. So BQ, branding. Yeah. And you can put anything on it, like better quality branding. You can do anything with it, but it was just Bjorn Quincy branding. And as a brand strategist, I would have never advised somebody to do that.
But you did it.
But I did it.
Yeah.
And I was, how old was I? I think I was 24, 25 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Something in that vicinity.
And then you're like, okay, so we're going to take over the world.
Yeah.
Start in the Netherlands.
We were like, okay, I'm going to buy you a Maserati. No, I'm going to buy you a Ferrari. No. It's like, and we're going to win awards. And yeah. And and indeed, we started in the Netherlands, and we also wanted to do, like I said in the beginning, we also wanted to have clients in Suriname or in the Caribbean. And we actually did have clients in the Caribbean. We had a few.
So when did the awards come?
They didn't.
Oh.
The results came, but the award didn't. We didn't apply for the awards. We didn't like, okay, write them. Let's apply. Let's go. But no.
But how successful were you with BQ branding?
When we had clients, we were successful, but there wasn't. That's something we learned along the way. There wasn't a steady pipeline of sale of clients coming in or projects coming in. That's it. We peaked, we made money, and then we dropped. We peaked, we made money, and then we dropped. So, and not peaking like making a lot of money, but we did okay. Mm-hmm. For two guys starting out just after school, after they finished their education. So that's actually we made one of the biggest projects we did at a time was also a project about a national dairy producer, which we helped rebrand. And it's actually one of the beginning was good, but the end was not so good.
Oh.
Yeah. Not in the results, but from a professional standpoint, we help them understand what branding really is. Help them understand what identity really is, even to the point of saying, okay, this is a logo. This is why you have to need to have this in your logo, or what it is used for, or what it does for your image, and why you need to think about it. Did it in presentations, did it onboarding on logo, identity, branding, because they were thinking about branding and just putting a logo on something. That's it. So we onboarded the board actually and the management team. And at the end, we got them to a point where we were going to do the whole rebranding of the logo, the packaging, everything, even the buildings. And even the fridges where the dairy would be in. And we presented, or I made a short list of the logos, and I presented the possible logos they could choose from. But I also added one that was close to their original logo, just to show, look, this is what you want. This is just an update of your original one. This is what you can do. This is what's possible. And this is how it would look like on packaging. This is how it would look like on your website. What do you think they chose?
Chose the one that was nearest to what they already had.
That was a hard-learned lesson. Never again.
What was the lesson then?
Don't ever think for somebody else. Don't ever think that you know what somebody's going to choose. Just present the best you can, and don't present what you think that somebody's going to like or going to like seeing, and think they're going to get what you're trying to show them.
What would have happened if you didn't present that one that was nearest to?
They would have chosen another one. The one that was already almost fully developed in visuals and in everything. But the thing is, every time I see that logo now, I get reminded of that lesson. And I see it a lot.
Well, quite a lesson. You didn't stop at the BQ branding company, because you also had and still have Habitat.
Yeah, Habitat is actually a cooperation of different entrepreneurs, and we're Habitat. So how do I say? We all have our specialities. I'm branding one. Another one does Broadway shows. Another one does happiness training and coaching. Another one does business development. Another one is vitality. But all of them wanted to do it with the core of making people happier. And we actually met each other for the first time. So one of them knew all of us, and he heard all of our stories, and he said, hey, wait, we need to get this bunch together. There's something here. And actually, funny story, he made the appointment. We met in Amsterdam, but he was late. So we met each other without him introducing us to each other. And we hit it off from the beginning. And he came in after that, he said, you don't need me anymore. What's happening? So it was nice, and that's how Habitat got born, because Habitat means happy habitat. And it was the thing we were doing, were giving training workshops to have people realize that it's important to have a happy workspace and what you can do to get there. That it's not just one thing, it's different things. It's vitality, it's knowing who you are, it's being able to voice who you are. So that's how Habitat was born. And we, once in every, I think 4 or 5 times in a year, we would do that for a day or 2 days. We even went abroad 2 times.
Where to? Where to?
Bratislava.
Okay.
For ING. So we did. It was nice. It was a nice experience, and we're still in contact with each other in different ways, and everybody's doing their thing right now because everybody's busy. It was a miracle to get those people together, even for those 5 times, because it's such a busy schedule. And that's Habitat.
And then there is also, because you are really busy as well, because you also have the brand therapist.
Yeah.
You are the brand therapist.
Yeah. But the brand therapist was an evolution of, I call it the evolution of BQ branding. Everything I learned there, BQ branding was more geared towards, or people thought it was more geared towards visual communication and marketing and visual branding. But there was always something missing in the beginning. So what is the identity? What's the core of this brand? Why we're communicating like this? Why this looks like this visually? That was always missing. And in projects with clients, we would always go back to, okay, but this, but why? Tell me why. So that's talking to somebody, getting it out of them. Why do you want to do this? Why are you doing this? What's the purpose of doing this? And that's how it started. That's how my way of doing things started, instead of just filling in models, because there are a lot of models. And you can pick a model for everything from a brand prism to a brand key to a business model canvas. You can, there are a lot of them on, just Google it, you get a lot of them. So that's how it started, actually, just talking to people and getting to their story. Not looking at the brand, but getting to the story. Because that's important, because that's the base of what you're going to build upon. What's going to say, okay, we're doing this, not this, we're doing this, not this. Yeah, but why not? Because that's our base, that's our identity, that's our brand. And that's how the brand therapist started, because I wanted to actually separate those two, the strategic part from the visual part. And that meant for me that I could talk to clients or other types of clients in another way. I could talk to clients who are more strategically focused than visually focused. And that meant something else for the pricing also, but also for what people expected. So that's how it developed towards the brand therapist.
How does the brand therapist usually take on a client? What are the first steps that you take with a client?
Like I said, just talk like we're sitting here.
Just, yeah. So not beforehand, like still fill in a form or something.
Yeah, you can fill in the form, but if I don't know what the context is, it's just answers on a piece of paper or answers on the screen, right? So I want to know what the context is. I want to know how people think about something, or either their service, their brand, their product, themselves, and what they're trying to achieve.
And how long is the talk? How often do you talk?
So at the beginning, to get a sense of what they really need or what they really want, or to have clear if what I think they want is really what they want, 1 or 2 just sessions, not even a session, 1 or 2 talks. And then I get a sense, and then I say, okay, this is what I can do, or I'm not the right person for this. That can also be an answer.
When does that happen?
When you're not most of the time when you want to use the brand as just a sales tool, then it's not for me. I can help you with somebody else, but I'm not going to be the one doing it, because you're not doing it to create a brand or to create meaning, to create value, not financial value, but value in people using the brand, people developing the brand. So that's a hard no for me if that doesn't happen, or if that isn't the case. So that's what I try to get to in those two talks, in those two moments. If there is a base to work together, say, okay, let's go to the beginning. Because people still think about, if you're talking about branding, they're talking about website, logo. So the most things they can hold on to. But that's not where I want to begin. I want to begin with, okay, how do you look at the world? What do you think it looks like now? What is missing? What can you add to it? And when you add to it, what will change? For whom? For you? For me? For somebody else? Who is your target audience? And that's kind of towards marketing more, your target audience. But I also want to know, okay, who's going to help you? Who's going to be your village? Who's going to help you get there, build your brand, be critical. So that's what I want to know. And I also want to know what, not in depth, but what's your personal situation? Why are you doing this? Have you been forced to do this? Have you always wanted to do this? So those things are important to be able to guide somebody, because that's how I look at it. I'm guiding you towards something that's already there, but it hasn't been clear or isn't clear for you for whatever reason, and hasn't been polished. It isn't that diamond yet. Yeah, it's just a rock right now, a rock that you hold dear to your heart. But how can we get it to a diamond, and let other people see that it's not a rock, it's a diamond, because it's not all about you. Somebody told me that the branding isn't just about you; it's about them also.
Are we talking about small companies, starting companies, startups?
It actually doesn't matter.
Also the big companies.
Also big companies. That surprised me actually, that where you thought companies with, I had a client and I did it with two other brand strategists. They had a revenue of 53 billion a year, worldwide client. And we didn't do the whole company. We were supposed to start, or we were going to start in the Benelux, and they did, I think, 14 billion. And from there go to Europa, and there go worldwide. And they didn't have a clear vision or a clear brand. It was a product, was a service, but they didn't have a brand. And that actually surprised me, because I thought, a company this big, with this image, you would have thought, they know, but they didn't. Ask weird questions. That's actually how they refer to us. You are the weird people that ask weird questions that we wouldn't ask.
What kind of weird? I'm very curious.
I don't know. For instance, why is it named services instead of solutions? Why not services? If you want a serviceable brand, why call it solutions and not services?
And they were like, indeed, why do it?
Yeah. So, stupid things like that. And bringing it all together. And we started at a human level, talking to the people behind the product, getting to know why they did the things they did the way they did it, and why they didn't. And that was a very important piece, because you had an extra stakeholder on the outside of the brand, the clients. So we also talked with a few clients and thought, okay, there's something here. There's a reason why this tech software kind of brand isn't connecting on a human level, or in the communication, in the branding, but is doing that in relation to their clients, in relation to whoever they're working with. So why not build the brand around that it's not about the tech, it's not about the product, it's about the human sitting behind that tech and behind that product. So we did that, build a brand strategy around that, and they presented it pure coincidence, because they had a conference a worldwide conference, and they presented it towards the one of the worldwide marketing something, and they said, "Oh, wait, but there's something here. We can do a lot with this." So they expedited the rollout to Europa, and after that, I don't know what happened to the thing, because we were 3 brand strategists, and then they have their own companies and people sitting there, the politics of corporates.
If Nike would come knocking on your door and be like, for whatever reason, could you work with us because we need to sharpen our brand or whatever, is there anything that you might be able to work with?
I think so, but I think Nike would be very daunting for me, because I would be asking myself, and I can be a pretty cocky person, so I would still be asking myself, okay, what am I going to add to this brand? How am I going to make this better? And after I initially did that, I'm going to say, yeah, but you can still ask stupid questions, so why not? Let's go. Let's see what happens. So I'll probably do it. And I also like Coolblue as a brand, the way they started.
For the ones who don't know Coolblue?
Yeah, is a Dutch brand that's like Best Buy. I think everybody knows Best Buy or Target, but they sell electronics. But the way they do it is, it's actually just a company that sells other brands and other things.
How do they do it, would you say?
Customer service, good customer service. The user is important. So it's a user-friendly delivery system. It's a user-friendly website. It's all user-friendly. That's the way it looks. I haven't been in Coolblue. I've been in their offices. You can do like a rondje of Coolblue, and you can see where they work. I think it's here in Rotterdam, and you can see their offices, their office spaces. They have, for instance, they have one office space is a ballenbak, so office full of balls, and that's where they do the sollicitatie, their intake, the
job interviews.
The job interviews. So, but the aspect of that I like is, that a job interview is a very anxious moment. So what they do, they put people into a cage full of balls, like when you're in your childhood. So it doesn't feel that, it takes the edge off. So it's making people feel easier. So I like that. That's one brand I like. I also like Ferrari, for instance, but that's more emotional thing. It's more about the sports car. It's more about the attention to detail. So different reasons why I like different brands. I also think Beats was a good brand.
Beats by Dr. Dre?
Yeah, brilliant. It was built on a culture. So
why isn't it a brand anymore?
Because it got sold off. It got sold off for $3.2 billion.
It surprised me that it vanished.
Yeah. That is true. So that's why it isn't a great brand anymore. Or for me, it isn't a great brand anymore, because it doesn't add anything anymore. It got monetized.
You name brands, you name American brands, Dutch, Ferrari, Italian, Surinamese. You're from Suriname.
Yeah.
What brand is there that you would say, like, yeah, they're doing a good job as well? Probably many, so just choose one.
That's a hard one, actually.
Why is that hard?
Because I grew up with those brands, so it's different for me. I even worked for some of those brands, with some of those brands. And a brand that I always loved was the SLM, the Surinamese aviation carrier, the national carrier. But I grew up sleeping in the coat closets of the 747 Boeing. So it's different from me.
Explain why you grew up in planes.
Because my dad was a purser and was head of cabin crew, and my mom was also a purser, and that's where they met each other. And so it's different for me. And I knew everybody. I even went to serve dinner or breakfast or help set in the cockpit. So it's much more. I had a way different experience than most people have, and I think most people don't have that. They're late again. They lost my luggage again. So, but the stories I've heard, that's why I love that brand. And there are a lot of actually other brands that Fernandez. I like Fernandez.
That's a big Surinamese, Caribbean actually.
Yeah. Now it's Caribbean, but it started, and it's in everything from bread to they even have cars and boats, and so it started. It's a family group.
Boats,
Yeah, but it's not the Fernandez boat.
No, okay.
But
the family has.
Yeah, they sell Honda. I think Honda motors and brands like that.
They're doing a good job.
Yeah, they are actually.
That's branding.
Oh wait, and I have one more. It might be an orthodox way of saying a brand, but the end of the year party in Suriname, for me, that is a great brand.
Tell me more about that.
I don't think people see it as a brand, but there's at the end of the year, everybody they have things in Suriname, pagadas. So how do you call pagadas? The one with the red firecrackers that they roll out 100-meter firecrackers. So they have a marathon of that going from noon on the 31st of December and starting partying the whole day long. And the whole city comes out to party with buses, with drinks, with music, everything. And I haven't experienced anything like that or as warm as that anywhere in the world before. And people going there saying the same thing. It's special. So for me, it can't be replicated. So it's something that's in of itself its own thing, and that's what a brand is.
When I think of a brand, I think of a logo.
Yeah.
I think of, and that's not really the case of what you just described.
No, that's why I said it's an unorthodox way of saying what a brand is. But if you look at what a brand is, if I were to say Dior, what is the feeling you get?
Luxury. Charlize Theron, I think she is the model of Dior, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And on the male side, it's Johnny Depp, but you get a feeling, right? Because behind the logo, there's a feeling. It isn't the logo that's giving you the feeling. It's all the experiences with that brand that's giving you that feeling. That's what a brand is. It's who you are. It's not how you look. It's who you are. People wearing Balenciaga that cost 50 euros aren't wearing it because they like the shoe, because the shoe represent, or the name represents something that they want to be associated with. That's what a brand is, an association to something, to experience, to status or whatever. So that's why I said, for me, that event, which only happens once a year, every year, and it's different every year, but the feeling, the warmth, that's what it is for me.
Speaking of feeling, warmth, and everything, let's go to Guestwise, because that also has to do with some kind. It's more hospitality.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how that started. How did you get into Guestwise, and what is Guestwise?
So, Guestwise is in the Netherlands. It's called gastvrijheid. For a lack of a better name, I would say hostmanship. Because it isn't really hospitality. Hospitality is like this, and gastvrijheid is really a bigger picture. It's a consultancy that helps other companies develop their service level while looking at, or by making a better guest experience and a better employee experience. Looking at different things, at roles, at responsibilities, at processes, at systems, at who's the one you're servicing, so your guest most of the time. But also, what's your drive? What are your core values? How do you instill those values within your work culture? So all of that, that's what Guestwise does. And next to that, we also help people with the right person at the right place. So hospitality personnel and security personnel with that mindset, with that hostmanship mindset. That's what Guestwise does, and we do it with a range of different clients, from government to culture to health, even tech. So different. You can actually see people working for Guestwise in different parts in Rotterdam and not even know it. And how I came how I actually got to Guestwise was, let's see, I think in 2011, so in 2024 right now, in 2011, 2011, I was still working in, like I said, I was working in security, did I say that? I was working in security as a student and made some friends there. Two of those friends started their own security company. All the while, in 2006-07, I started my BQ branding, so did that, and did security on the side. I actually liked not always thinking about strategies and communication plans and executing, just doing security, creating some headspace while earning more money. That's the entrepreneur in me. So doing that, and on one of those days, one of the guys said, "Hey, you do branding, right?" I said, "Yeah." "Can you maybe you can help us? We're trying to capture a story, and we can't get there. Would you be willing to help us?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not? But paid, right?" Yeah. Yeah. So I have to ask. It's the friends.
Yeah,
so
important. Yeah.
So did that for, I think I helped. It took about 3 to 4 months to get that story on paper, develop a new label. I'm calling it a label, not a brand yet, because it's just a label. And saying, okay, but we started just with the core of hostmanship, what we were just talking about, gastvrijheid. And that's what we developed. And we developed our own methodology. Like I said in the beginning, there are a lot of methods and models. We developed our own because we looked at things from an other standpoint. We didn't look at just security. This is my island, this is security, this is hospitality, this is my client, this is the guest. No, they need to be interwoven with each other, and they are interwoven with each other. Because if you come into a venue somewhere, you don't just say, "Oh, the security, it was a great experience," but you take that feeling with you to the other one. So it's interwoven with each other. If it's a bad experience, you say hi or don't say hi to the next person. So that's how we looked at it. But that's what we created in the beginning. That was in 2011, and we came up with the name Guestwise. After a whole lot of names, came with the name Guestwise. And it was based, and with the branding of Guestwise, and it was based upon a triangle. Because we were thinking, okay, wait, how does this whole Guestwise thing work? How does this hostmanship work? Oh, it's 3 things. We have the guest, we have the people managing everything, and we have the people actually greeting the guest. So that's how it works. Triangle. That's how we communicate. And actually the logo is built up out of triangles. So that's our main shape. Everything we do, triangle. Each and everything. If you come to our offices, you're going to see everywhere triangles. But that's how, so we set it up, and then the job was done. And they asked after that, I think a month after that or something like that, they say, "Do you want to onboard as our brand manager for 1 or 2 days each week?" I said, "Yeah, sure, but I want to do my own thing next to it." And that's how I onboarded them. That's why I thought to myself, I know the company inside out. I helped set it up, so why not? And it was like an adventure. Let's go, let's do. And it was built from the idea of creating a brand that's going to add value and make people's life better, because that's what Guestwise is. We create environments where people feel welcome and safe. That's what we do. That's the core of everything we do. Either it be training, coaching, consultancy, advice, hospitality, or security personnel. That's what we do. We don't always get there. Like I said, brand isn't perfect, but we strive towards it. And that's how it evolved to partnership in 2019, I think. So that's how I am part of Guestwise now in 2024.
So you're juggling between quite some companies. How much time do you spend regarding these different companies that you have?
So as you can imagine, when I started, it was 2 days in a week. It was Guestwise 2 days in a week, and BQ branding, all the other clients were 3, maybe 4 days a week. And now it shifted towards growing the brand. It's much bigger. We started with, I think, 12 people when we started with Guestwise. We have 130 people now. So, yeah, I still can't believe it when I say it sometimes, and growing. So it's taking a lot more time or needs more attention. So most of my time goes towards Guestwise. And I stopped doing BQ branding because I don't have the time to do it. But I still do, every now and then, brand therapist sessions with clients, depending on my criteria of, okay, is this a brand I believe in, or a story I believe in, or a person that I want to help or can help for that instance. And that's how I look at it now. So that's what I do.
How do you, because professionally, lots of time goes into all what you're doing. How do you balance your professional and your personal life?
I don't really balance it. I integrate it.
Tell me more.
So I like cooking. Yeah. I like people around me. So we have a kitchen at the office. So just yesterday I baked a stack of pancakes, banana pancakes, just the fluffy ones, just because I wanted to bake pancakes and have everybody just eat pancakes. But that's where the conversation happens, right? People come and talk, and you get things done, and you get a phone call, and you have a meeting, and we're baking pancakes. So I combine that, and that's part of my personal life. But the family home is also doing their own thing. I have an entrepreneurial wife, so she has her own company. She's in finance, and I have a daughter who has 4 jobs or something like that. Yeah, I have 4 jobs, but she has 4. She plays 2 sports. She plays saxophone. So I have a son who's in the last stage of his school, does taekwondo. He likes gaming, maybe too much. I like gaming also, but so everybody does their thing, and when we're together most of the time, because there's also somebody in the back just working or doing something else. But we try to be independently living together, and then coming together again and enjoying the time we have with each other while not expecting too much from each other. Like my daughter called me last night and said, "Where are you? Why aren't you home yet?" I said, "I'm coming, but why are you calling me?" "Oh, because normally you're already home." So that's also a part how I balance it, how I integrate it. I don't like to say, "But I'm working, but I need to work, but I need to work." I don't like that.
Now, how would you like to be remembered in the far future, like 100 years ahead?
100 years.
50
Jesus
or
Christ.
just
50 years.
No, that's too close. Let's
Okay,
say
75.
Yes,
Yeah,
75 years.
Let's go in the middle. Malcolm in the middle. Let's go. Different ways, I think. Not really that's a wrong wording. I was gonna say not really a good father, but I want to be remembered as a father that listened and tried to help as best as he could to get the most out of what there is, so that diamond, the stone we have, to get it more towards diamond. Actually, what I'm doing with clients, and being part of other people's happiness. That's how I want to be remembered. And happiness can be family, happiness can be a brand, happiness can be helping me tell the story, or asking stupid questions to get me further, being part of that happiness. Oh God, thank you, you helped. So I think that's how I want to be remembered, being part of other people's happiness.
Now, how can peers, clients, listeners, viewers contact you, reach you?
When I'm not busy, you can always reach me on LinkedIn, or they can mail you, ask you my number, you can give it to them. And what else? You can go to demerktherapeut.nl. There's my personal website, or just call me at Guestwise. Guestwise is the probably the best option right now. Yeah.
Then the receptionist will be Like, hold
Yeah,
on, and then a few
you can mail
seconds
me
later.
just Quincy at Guestwise.nl.
Many ways to
Yeah,
reach you.
but don't try to sell me anything. Just let's talk first. Let's date first before we get married. Like, let's do that.
Thank you so much for being here, Quincy.
Yeah, thank you for having me.